lost his daughter, he became like a lost soul. Like he just didn't care anymore.
He just went through a psychopathic stage.
He became a sociopath where he's like, like I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I have nothing to live for. So
I thought that was crazy. Like it broke him to that point. And the fact that like like you said, it felt like he's done this a 1,000 times. Like he knows the routine. Like he knows what's gonna fly and what's not. You know.
He had covered it up to make himself look like a hero essentially, and set up a sequel, which I guess we'll see what happens with that with the script.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Do you want to hit us with this one facts?
You guys ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Swan facts.
All right, Swan facts. Fede Alvarez, the director, moved away from the supernatural with a more grounded horror approach for this one. Basically, he was kind of ridiculed for Evil Dead from a lot of people saying that it was way too gory, that a lot of the effects and everything were just way too obvious. I mean, that's all
the best part
arguable.
That movie.
Yeah.
Come on. The goriness.
I know my buddy, shout out to Chris, that's something that he really had a problem with, is that they took out the campiness and the funny, and it was just a serious take with that amount of gore. He was like, I wasn't really into this, but he did actually really love Don't Breathe. So that's an interesting one. He opted to show he could actually create an original idea with less blood than Evil Dead. So this was basically like, yo, I can do this too. You know, I can make a shocking film that doesn't rely on gore and gags.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of actual gore. Money, there's a few bits with Alex. There's a lot of visceral stuff like pounding and stuff, but nothing too nuts.
No,
it's more relies on acting and like the terror, the suspension, the build up of everything, which is it's executed pretty well. The film was originally titled A Man in the Dark. Actor Stephen Lang, who played the blind guy, wore contact lenses throughout filming that impaired his vision to about 30%.
Wow.
Crap.
So
that's
he's
crazy.
Almost
blind.
He was basically blind for that production. He also memorized the set areas in order to feel more realistic while being filmed on screen. So he really did memorize a lot of that stuff. This film was made on a micro budget of $9 million and went on to gross over $157 million.
Talk about the good return.
Yeah. Profit right there.
The film is actually set in Detroit, which makes sense with all the decaying buildings and where he's at, and
the abandoned housing.
They say it real quick that he's the only one in that neighborhood who refuses to sell his property.
He's the last man standing.
Which is why the big, you could say it's a plot convenience, but that's why they're like, oh, this is an easy target. Nobody's around, no nosy neighbors. We can just hop in and out, and there's not going to be any cops. Nobody's going to do anything, you know, and then it turns fatal for them.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But
that's their downfall.
In the infamous scene that takes place in the basement, the blind man shuts off the lights, forcing the thieves to feel their way out. The cast actually wore special contact lenses to give the appearance of dilated pupils, which also restricted their vision too. So basically, they're doing that scene in the dark, for real.
Oh, nice.
Which I feel like that's why it feels so authentic.
Oh yeah, it does, yeah.
Because they're really like struggling
feeling around. You can tell.
I don't know how you would hit your cues.
Right, yeah.
That must have been crazy.
If you grab
this so many times.
Maybe like, if you grab this is where you yell when you grab this stuff.
Like doing, the whole, like the chokeout scene and her almost touching him. It feels, it's so organic, and I have no idea how they pulled that off.
Yeah, that's cool.
Here's one that you might appreciate. Don't Breathe actually beat out Suicide Squad in its opening weekend. Don't Breathe actually pulled in 26 million, while Squad only made 12.
Wow.
Yeah.
Underdog
Oh yeah.
winning.
That's cool.
And my final one, and to answer your guys' question about the sequel is indeed happening. It's titled Don't Breathe Again, with co-writer Rogo Sayugas, set to direct.
Nice. Okay.
So Fede co-wrote this with him. The script is complete. Sam Raimi actually said recently that it's the best sequel script he's ever read. Okay. Which is that's some hype.
Nice.
That's some damn
high praise.
Crazy hype.
Yeah.
The film is slated for a 2021 release.
So is it supposed to still be those two coming back?
Yes, I believe it's all original cast.
It'd be interesting to see how that. It'd be interesting to see how that plays out.
Will the sister be involved?
He has He has to have some sick ass idea that we're not even thinking about.
Right.
Because it's like, how would that work? So he's gonna go and like find them
but he's blind.
In where'd they go in California? You know, like, how's he gonna work outside? How would he manipulate the situation? You know? Interesting.
Rottweiler says.
Very interesting.
Cool.
Yeah,
I like to see how that plays out.
I have a Fede Alvarez interview.
Okay.
It's about 6 minutes. Do you guys want to? It's him kind of discussing the film. You want to drop into that?
Yeah.
I asked the actors. You've made 3 different characters that aren't necessarily likable characters. They rob people, but they are. You do care. How that's got to be a kind of tricky thing as a director. How did you make that work?
I think it's never been for me. I mean, there's a school of screenwriting these days that is kind of wrong. That always says like you have to create likable characters. I don't agree with that. I agree you have to create characters that you can empathize with them, that you can understand why they do the things they do, right? And that's what really makes you to care about them living or dying at the end of in the course of the story. But I didn't invent that. I mean, think about Hitchcock. Who is nice in his movies? Like. Janet Leigh, she's stealing money from this guy that was planning to buy a house for his daughter. Jimmy Stewart, he's a peeping Tom, or even Jimmy Stewart in Vertigo. In Vertigo, he's this guy. He's obsessed with this girl and trying to turn her into someone else. They're all bad people, strangers on a train. They're like plotting to kill. They're never. Does that make them, hard to watch movies? Or no way.
Yeah.
Because all it matters is you understand what they want. Would you like to get $1 million? Of course. I mean, most people would say like, why not? Would you dare to go in someone's house? No. And because it's the part that also you admire, I guess. That the balls to go and do certain things that maybe you will do in a different life. So I think, again, it's empathizing the word and it's not liking necessarily. And shady morals makes for great movies because I think you never know how it's going to end because you don't know who's supposed to win, right? Who deserves the money? Who deserves to die? Who deserves to live? If there's one nice person or the virgin, that person will be the one that will live and survive. Mm-hmm. So there's none of that in my movies usually, and that's why usually you will never know who will survive it, right?
Well, I also think that there's desperate times right now. We're seeing a lot of desperation. We're seeing a lot of that. Yeah. I think it also fits in politically where we are. Just you look at the news. Working with Jane again. You put her through the ringer, man. Oh my God! And what is it? It's almost like she's your muse now at this point. What is it like working with her again and building yet another fascinating character with her?
I mean, that's a lot of credit to who she is and what she brings to my stories. But she never fakes an emotion. Like she's fully committed and she's always giving 200%. And when you see her on set, she's never gonna phone it in. Like she's so committed. That's why I think she suffers sometimes a lot making these films, because nothing is a faked emotion, right? Everything she's really good. And me as a director, I really try to give my actors like the real thing as an experience, right? Like some of those scenes you watch is actually the first time that Stephen Lang interacts with them. I isolate him from them and the pre-production and first days, so they don't become buddies, and then it becomes they think it's all fake. Like when they find him in the house, maybe that's the first time they see him since they arrive to set. So it makes for a lot of things. I always try to give them the real adventure, so the actors are like, they don't have to fake it. Or if there's a countdown, the door's going to open, I tell the actors in 3 it's going to open, and I tell the guy open it in 2. So when he's about to go in her mind, she thinks there's a countdown, and suddenly opens before. So you get to scare them for real. And then they come to me and they bitch at me and they scream at me. But then I usually, or hopefully, at the end of the whole process, they're happy that they got great performances and the movie worked, right?
And you put them in the dark, which is unusual. How did that go about, and how did you approach that scene specifically?
It was definitely a challenge. Like it's always tempting to go to full darkness in movies, particularly scary movies, because full darkness is such a scary feeling for anybody. We all been through that, like at some point, just in your bedroom, like turn off the light, and so it really takes you to a primal state of fear. But unfortunately, cameras need light to work, so that kind of catch-22 situation. But we thought, like, okay, what can we do to have a scene that is pitch dark, but the audience actually can enjoy every minute of it and see what's happening. So we developed this kind of look that you see in the movie that is kind of strange and bizarre, but and kind of reminiscent of night vision without being night vision, because nobody has a camera. And it was really a leap of faith. I mean, we went for that. We developed the look. We need some light to see. But then the actors had these pupils dilated, right? So those were lenses, and those lenses were blinding them. So they're actually not pretending to be blind most of the time. They actually couldn't see a lot, right? So it became this kind of strange and clever, trick that made it work pretty well.
You've come from doing what I thought was a very successful remake, a reboot, Evil Dead, to doing an original story. What was the process like, and why this story? Why was this next up for you?
I think my process was, though I enjoyed the hell out of Evil Dead, right, as a filmmaker, and you knew a lot of people had the pressure, and there was a lot of hate at the beginning, and the fact that we're going to remake a classic, and I was part of that same hate when I was an audience and I heard about that, and then it was me doing the job. But I was so excited I was going to do my first movie that the excitement was just above everything else, so I couldn't really be bummed out by any of that. But then eventually, I think because of that, we managed to make a movie that at least, some people could say, oh, it surprised them, and it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. So, but nonetheless, the whole process of Evil Dead, then looking back, I was like, I kind of hate that there was some reviews that was like, it's good, but the original is better. It was like, what does that mean? Like, if the audience goes to the theaters and just watch a movie, they do not compare it with anything else.
No.
So there was, but I completely agree. I'm taking a lot of ideas from the original, so they have the right to compare it, because it's the rule of the game. So that's why I want to make my original film. I just want to start from scratch, get a white page, think my own idea. What would I do if I started from scratch, and really make a film that felt like it was my first film? Like, it would have make more sense that I make this movie first and then I get to do the Evil Dead remake, right? But I decided to do it the other way around because I needed that movie in my life. I needed that scary movie that just come from me and from a white page and see that on the screen. It was crucial for my life.
I still want to see what you did with Evil Dead 2, man. It's gotta happen.
We'll see. We'll see.
Right?
It's always there in the conversations. It might happen someday. Who knows?
Exactly.
Boom, there we go.
Nice.
That was a great one.
Yeah, that was a really cool, interesting insight. You see how just the way he talked about the movie. I think it's always fun to hear that, the directors especially, how they feel the movie. Like, I don't know, it's just really cool. Especially
when they're able to articulate what, like, the meaning behind a lot of things.
Yeah.
And make you feel it. Like, this guy, he talks like a filmmaker. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or just like, whoa, like, this guy knows what's going on. And for him to be, I mean, now he's been around for a while, but he's still kind of new. Mm-hmm. And for him to have that kind of, to be like an intellectual in that way, it's always amazing to hear.
He's a true student of the art. Mm-hmm. If you could tell in this movie.
Yeah. and just a fan of the genre. You know, just like name dropping Hitchcock and
Right.
all kinds of things. It's you know, you can always tell. But so what are we going to talk about next week? It's James's pick.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I want to do something different. This is actually, I just thought about doing this. I've been wanting to do one of these particular movies, but I thought, why don't we just bunch it all together?
All right.
I don't know if you wanted to try to do all three.